Hello and welcome to If Not Us. This is an anthology interactive visual novel type game where you get to hear the story through the perspective of 5 different characters. So, it sort of sounds interesting. So, anyway, I can't seem to click on this first guy, so I guess we'll go into our son instead. Dearest darlingest forever beloved Aria, Father is about to do something that scares him to his core. You'll know what that was. Not certain yet. Comes a time when I will be, and so in turn will you. But first I must plead one last inheritance to you. Even after the Almighty bequests you have found yourself burned with far too long. Friend Rentum and Amarium, give them the enclosed. They will tell you a story. Here, one day we will be returned to you. Till then, have patience for your weary, diminished father, forever undeserving of one like you, Dad. To Rentham and Amarium, witness and observer, the first of my feelings or shadows I have chased. Yeah, the shadow I chased, that sounds interesting. No doubt you can tell, I was raised on the tales of your heroics. I longed throughout my childhood to one day discover that I could be you. Slowly and steadily, I knew I never could be. I was too close to the people around me. Ren and Miriam couldn't see people the way I knew I did. Could not love so deeply it hurt. Ren knows how to avoid that. You are what you are, and I admired you for that. I still do. I only wish I knew how to do what you had done. Perhaps I've uncovered that secret. Everything would have gone differently. But now, the heart has been torn from me. There are those who go on ahead, and I am obligated to follow, or obliged to follow. And there are those who await my return. Every breath is laboured by obligation. Weighted by failure. There is no reassuring weight to water at its depths. The surface, the infinity of air, and the sky and sun crashes one against the dirt. No. Let me return to the point. You require an accounting of the events following your disappearance, so that upon your re-emergence, you more adequately understand the world in which you find yourself. Merely act as I must now. Wherever you shall be, you shall witness the effect I have had. Thou shalt understand my actions truer than I. But this I can offer, and no other. I happen to less than the world, but more than a man, us. How to begin? It started with you. I see that your departure was inevitable. The rentum of time past was bound to their companions, tied by prophecy to that and the messenger, and to Calvier and Sebel by providence. When contrivance meets coincidence and loses serendipity, you could only bear the journey a single month before you saw that your role lay elsewhere. Perhaps this is because we saw such unbridled success, such ease of travel to start, and yet you seem perpetually afraid, and I'm afraid that I hounded you, so eager to learn from you. Asked incessantly about your lives and stories, wonders you had seen, told in your turn of how the parables led my life and work. The world led you in a different direction, but always I know you go where you are needed. With you, we would never strive hard enough for success. We never would have been able to apply ourselves, or to guess at how the world truly worked. Knew what it was that we faced, didn't you? Did that play a part? With Ren on our side, we would have known, witnessed, cherished, contextualized, righteous, predetermined. The people we needed help from would have quaked in their boots. All people knew of Cavier and that person Sybil, but without Bren as well, we were nothing more than one successful attempt to regrasp glory, without understanding what we had done to find glory. I don't know if things would have turned out different from you along for the journey. Don't know if, that person or this other person or Cavier would have survived, but it's not in any position to wonder, is it? After all this time, you must have devised a way to either survive without wandering or to make your peace with the deaths that follow you. Let it be noted that I will go to my grave eaten with jealousy for that. Maybe soon. I know. I have no other choice but to go on. I hope I have made my peace. I had never seen death. We had our predators just as everyone else does. Creatures that lurk in deep, dark wars and a wealth of dangers. But before I took you and Cavier and these other two, as this one was dying, I held her, shawl bundled up and sun red, firm against her chest. And I spoke and spoke and spoke, and I told her it was fine. I don't think she heard me. Her eyes were glazed and her hands reached. Going home. She shook and she bled, and at least I was not there for Cavier. Do not believe I would have borne it. I know that she thought of you often. She was dearly attached to you and our other companions, and would collect, as we went, trinkets she found reminiscent. Sure she would have kept the toy of her you brought, the floppy-eared kid that sold on the streets. We had left it. Charm in her eyes when she saw it. Perhaps it was that, and that alone, that pushed her to leave her beloved fields for our journey. As it was, all of the trinkets she collected, you were the only one of whom she kept nothing. With the other two, she seemed determined to prove a point. She leaned over her and I, just like the other one, but so much more emotion held her acts like she swung in the sky itself, bit and kicked and gored like she was all that stood between us and nothingness. Now and again, when she thought we were asleep, she would curl against their back, and they would communicate until dawn. She would laugh low and pleasant. I never knew her as well as I would, but I could imagine the kid she was and the adult she is now, and see 8 years of pride and confidence and love in every flicker of her ears. She had to go. Word reached us her hometown had been marched on, holding out but barely. She spent the day grinding her hooves against the stone road, and after they started the campfire, she said she had to go. 8 years gone by, but she had brothers and sisters she knew still lived, and she said she had always been for the battle more than the war. They moved to follow as she trotted into the trees, but she took its head in both her hands, pressed it forward to it, and said she would find us after they were run out. She never did, but you are still on your way, so who knows? Her golem bore it with indifference. Lem saved us. Lem saved us every moment of every day. We had it and we never noticed. To cross the final mountain, Polly and I had to shed crucial items every day. Never slept restfully again. What sort of a quest can it be when half of every day must be spent on inventory management? Neither you nor that person or Polly would ever have bothered with those details, but it could have let you told yourself. Could have whenever it wanted. Never could. Names were engraved in it as deeply as the walls that gave it life. Delicate loot script blinding its clay above names. All capitals, traced clumsily with a single finger. And yeah, they've pretty much just written a bunch of all their names. Spectre could not have written them themselves. Its value was immeasurable. Once heard Polly take a steamy mug of tea from its hand, half awake, eyes still gummed closed, and saw you're worth your weight in gold. There are some versions of the story where you brought it as a pack mule and your humanity won it over. It took human form from your influence, or that your victory won it a soul. My favorite was that the gods you saw your struggle and brought the mud before you to life, forming it as an equal to each and every one of you. One story I gathered said it was a person, silent and wise and deformed, humanized through its nicknames, but I know better. I was finding clay through my possessions for weeks afterwards. Here's what I know. First, you do not make friends easily. It was worth the weight of all of us in gold. Second, you always asked so much of it when you demanded its attention or tried to converse with it. You wanted a companion into eternity, and you're allowed to want that, of course, but you asked it to consider itself apart from its form in a way that I don't think it was capable of. Suppose from Ren, physical form is nothing but a nuance, momentary hazard. I wonder if Caviar ever understood. She never asked or expected anything of it seemed, and I still remember what you said to me when we first arrived at their home. All unimpressed and sulky, like the child you seemed to be, unnecessarily cruel in a way that hopes the recipient recognizes the effort you make to address them. Believe me, you were wrong. Caviar never exposed sorrow, nor regret, or much of anything else. But she stayed, Ren. You must remember that she stayed. I've known many of her kind, known many like any of you. At the end, Polly and I worked tirelessly to accomplish our best. All the party, our skill sets were the closest. But with creative thinking, we made up for the raw strength we lacked. We had faith, always faith. She overflowed with faith till the last, and even when I held her hand as she died, she merely shook her head, eyes glossy, and swore she was just returning to where she came from, that she'd finally found her way home. I hope she daily finds whatever it was that she sought. One night, near the end, she stayed by the campfire, watched the dark settle, to keep from sleeping, from succumbing to whatever it was waiting. Perhaps nothing, in hindsight. It has become clearer the longer I am alone, that there is nothing unearthly about the threat that pursues us. To keep from succumbing, and because we're only the two of us left, I told the tales of my children. The first time they saw the sun hanging in the sky, the way they would drift in deep, warm springs. Where was I? The night never seemed to break. Neither of us could sleep. Not the chattering in the shadows that I always admired everyone's courage when confronted with the dark. That was your first time, wasn't it? A threat that shook the foundations of the world, that endangered the lives of each and every person, that lashed out without a voice or meaning, but pure instinct. This time, nothing so grand. Just power versus power, fear and strength. But to you, just another change. The world is always changing. You took it seriously. Polly's death was not meaningless. Did you pay as cautious attention as I always did to the sharpness of her knuckles when she folded her fist? To the tension in her shoulders when she threw everything she had out and then pulled it back. Once we were both too exhausted to guard the campsite, she tried to cast a protective ward to let us sleep, bundling it all up within herself. A desperate prayer and a quiet word. She lists names when she prayed. Near the end, starting with you and everyone else and going further and further back. Names of her order, names I'd never heard before but spoken with such tenderness. We couldn't work our way back out onto the road for a week. Other times she tried to light the campfire with a casual flick of her fingers, but her feet were planted an inch deep in the earth, fingers of her free hand digging into the curve of her elbow, unable to rein herself in without physically holding herself back. 7 years ago, she called the stars down to tear through the dark, used to living in a world that only asked her to perform simple tasks for laziness' sake. So life was that. Now you know the story. Well, my story. But long before Polly was lost, before Alem and Cavier, and before we lost you, before I lost Shiloh was lost first. Wonder about Shiloh sometimes. Am I allowed to write her name, or will the ink leak through the letters? Paper combust. Does it burn your eyes? Never spoke a name. What happened that she was allowed to lose her life first? Well, speak openly. I struggle to imagine that you, or Cavier, or Alem, or Polly would have willingly traded your lives for mine. Not with full awareness and knowing consent. Do not resent this. Know myself well enough to believe I would save myself first. There is a deep fear within me, a knowledge that of those waiting for me, that would never allow me to surrender my life for anyone else, nearly anyone. And yet, I can so easily imagine in a position other than our own, that the four of you would strive to lay down your lives for one another. Cavier had not been so distant, Philem had not been so targeted, and any of the three of you had been there to take Shiloh's hand. I do not doubt you would have. The absence was violent sometimes. You and Polly met eyes and then turned away. You reached for Philem and it ignored you. Polly spoke to Cavier with her head tilted all the way back, choosing each word carefully. Needed a reason to think it was okay to be together after Shiloh. You each realized in your own way that you couldn't save her, looked to the others, and realized that in this, so many things you were one. Is that what it was? I don't know why 5 of you are gone now. I don't know why I'm the one left. But I'm glad to be here, despite what I know is coming. I am honored beyond measure to have featured in each of your lives, to have fought at the side of you and your friends. Hate me for what you know I've done if you must. I understand, but not one moment do I regret. Can I regret? There was a reason it was me. A reason bigger than that I knew them. Had an idea of where we were going to. My lands, my people keep to their own. When I left, I cast aside much of what kept me there. Away from my people, family, home. I begin to fear that I am only a pawn in a game that has already sacrificed its queen, bishop, knight, rook. When you are reduced to only a handful of pawns, it is bad strategy to risk them. Try to make them better. Man I came all this way for, think he is claimed as one of their pawns. Name was Feroz. Won't indulge you with the details, either by this point. You must have experienced it yourself firsthand. You'll know, or you haven't, and you'll have seen many more poets phrase it prettier than I. Suffice to say, we have imagined a long life before us with our children. Took a few years after Shanaz before the core of the world started to pull at him, too strong to resist. He left. He didn't want more, but he always needed it. He was content with the stories, but he had to go where the sun shone too bright, and the air was too thin. But they couldn't bear it like his could. My country could not bear my departure like it could his. It's been 5 years since I can write this. There was a space left for him to come back to, and he never took it. Then the first civil war broke in this place. The chosen one making a stink. Seems so pretty from all the way over here. Another squabble for another throne. Remember wondering how Polly, or you, or Shiloh could have done the same if you wanted. Can't imagine a bid to lead would have ever been refused after all the service he gave. Was Feroz coming home? Could he have been targeted on my behalf? He always wanted more than he did. But did he make a grasp for power? Then the war was won. Destiny wins out. Waited for him to do something, say something. Told Arya and Shanaz pretty stories about their father's thrilling adventures on his way home. Didn't think he had died. But if he wouldn't come home, then I needed to find him. I would pluck heroes out of legend to scare the invaders away. It was not our battle to fight, but it's mine. It was mine. And now, I don't know what awaits me in there, Ren. I hope it's you. I'll borrow the faith of your companions from the trust of my youth. I believe that it is what must happen. Ren will be there for me, and I believe that if you do not come, there is as much reason for that. But whether I will walk in and walk out again, then know I am their land. They haven't struck yet. The water is too close, and they prefer land. If I flee, they will never find me. Feel their eyes on me. I stand there will descend. They will scold me where I need to go. I know it. Girls deserve infinitely better than the 2 messes of fathers. Here is what I plan to do, Ren. I will continue on. I will walk the path I have chosen after the people I have followed. And whether the path leads me to our companions, to Feroz... Okay, I guess I don't get to read the rest of that. Well, rip. Well, you guys can probably pause and read the rest of that if you want. I think that's the first story done. So yeah, these other characters that we've seen on the main menu screen, they're all the same people that were mentioned in Arsene's letter there. Yeah, that was very long-winded. Didn't really get much out of that, but who do we go for next? Okay, well, I think we will go in order and do Caviar next. Besides, I'm really interested with their portrait. They're like half goat. Very interesting. Also realized that person that we read before was like half fish, almost. Kind of cool. But anyway, let's go for Caviar next. Oh, we actually get sound this time for this. Icky. Yeah, I'm not going to even try to pronounce any of this. No time enough. One hand stays the haft of the axe. One shall cast over the house. Which one do we do next? This heartbeat makes me feel like I'm timed for this. Sun-faded paint but bright stripe where it stood. Pull the rocking chair into the shade, an inch to the left, thank you. Blade must be going to graying now. Blonde cake her coat. She swings the axe as she goes. Let her through. The weight tips the blade, and the blade tips the hand. Get the momentum going on and on and on. Let's do 2 next. 2 who stride into the storm. 2 slashes flat in the neck. Which one do we do next? Speed slick and fast after the fish. Alison will gloss and shimmer and dive like a bird. Could show you how, if you like, madam. Sunshine against water prickles her eyes. Strike the door and splinter the wood, and barrel on through like the force. You are trampled, or you trample them underfoot. Leave. Oh, okay, I can scroll down. Lead them hurting, lead them empty, and on and on and on. Three steps to the next door. 3 weeks too cold to breathe. Stack on stack on, the shakes won't stop. Ren curled around your head, pull it close at your back. Get together, Ren, she is getting colder. To have done this when they were 5. Carpet unsteady underfoot, but lean into it more like a lamb. Kept the fall and fall it forwards. Scream it out high and long, tumble faster. As they flee before you and you let them go and go. Okay, there's 5 there, but we'll do 4 next. 4 chances to slow down. 4 choices to go on and staying strong. Okay, I don't know why the heartbeat stopped, but why Ren? Of all, why Ren at the end? Lem first and Polly Asan. Oh. Ooh. Okay, definitely didn't like that. Okay, this is very, very different from the letter that we read with the last character. This is it's quite the contrast. Anyway, I was always home. Oh, and then Lem is now unlocked. Interesting. Don't know if there was anything more with her one, because I had to go back, because I don't know if I could click on anything more, but hold on. I do want to go back, because there was number 5 that we didn't get to click on. They can't let me click on number 5? Okay, we'll do 3 first, and then yeah, there we go. Now we're getting 5. 5 hearts beating your ears. 5 friends went to the end. Free and forever, and it won't touch us. A quest, a journey, a foe to vanquish. Kiddo, they can't touch us. That's not how the story goes. Can't do anything we don't let them do. Strike the door and splinter the wood, and barrel on through like the force you are. Trample them underfoot, leave them hurting, leave them empty, on and on. Okay. Okay, Lem first, then Paulius and Young. Find you again, Caviar, I'd never lose you. Young and all older than you'll never make it. She could throw them aside if she was, but she can serve them is enough. She'll last. She moves ragged and fast and vicious. For them you are slow to anger, fast to violence and never to end now. Friends near the end. Okay, that one actually ended differently. And, we're not haven't quite ended it yet. Okay, well anyway, I'll let you guys find out more about that one, but, I think I'm going to end it here. It's very interesting. Because I thought it was going to be much like the first one we read, and I was like, kind of cool, but boring, but yeah, with the contrast with that one, I'm interested to see what the other stories alike then. But if you guys are intrigued and interested with this, I want to read more about it, link will be down in the description below for it, and yeah, we'll be moving on to the next game. Hello and welcome to The Temple. This is an interactive text adventure that is based on the H.P. Lovecraft story by the same name, so it sounded interesting, so let's get into it. Manuscript found on the coast of Canton. On August 20th, 1917, I, Karl Heinrich Graf von Altberg, I'm not going to try to pronounce that, Lieutenant Commander in the Imperial Germany, in charge of the submarine U-29, deposit this bottle and record in the Atlantic Ocean at the point to me unknown, but okay, I don't know why it cuts off there. My screen must not be big enough. Okay, tried doing alt enter, but that didn't work. So, about north latitude 20 degrees, west longitude 35 degrees, when a ship lies disabled on the ocean floor. Do so because of my desires. Certain unusual facts before the public. Thing I shall know in all probability survive to accomplish in person, since the circumstances surround me as menacing as they are extraordinary, involve not only the hopeless crippling U-29, but the impairment of my Iron German will in a manner most disastrous. The afternoon of June 18th, as reported by wireless to the U-61, bound for Kiel, we torpedoed the British freighters from New York to Liverpool in north latitude 45 degrees 16, west longitude 28 by 34. Okay, we can either allow them to leave or murder the enemies. Sure, why not finish the job? We dispatched the crew before we could leave in order to obtain a good cinema view from the Admiralty records. The ship sank quite picturesquely, bow first, the stern rising high out of the water, whilst the hull shot down perpendicularly to the bottom of the sea. Our camera missed nothing, and I regret that so fine a reel film should never reach Britain. After we sank lifeboats with our guns unsubmerged, guess we're not leaving any survivors. I mean, I did just pick that option, so we rose to the surface about sunset. A seaman's body was found on the deck, hands gripping the sail railing in something fashion. The poor fellow was young, rather dark, and very handsome, probably Italian or Greek, and undoubtedly Victory's crew. He had evidently sought refuge on the very ship which we had been forced to destroy his own. One more of the unjust war of aggression which the English pig dogs are waging upon the fatherland. Let's search him just in case. Ooh, the fuck is that? God, that was a jump scare and a fucking half. Our men searched for his souvenirs and found in his coat pocket a very odd bit of ivory carved to represent a young crowned with laurel. A fellow officer, Lieutenant Clens, believed that the thing was of great age and artistic value from the men for himself. How it had ever come into the possession of a common sailor, neither he nor I could imagine. As the dead man was thrown overboard, there occurred two incidents which created much disturbance amongst the, I'm guessing, crew. As the dead man was thrown overboard, there occurred two incidents which created much disturbance amongst the crew, I think. Fellow's eyes had been closed, but in dragging his body to the rail, they were jarred open, and many seemed queer delusion that they gazed steadily and mockingly at Schmidt and Zimmer. I wish they hadn't chosen white for this, because kind of hard to read against the white, whatever the fuck this thing is, who were bent over the corpse. The boat's Muller, an elderly man who would have known better had he not been a superstitious Alston swine. He had become excited by this impression that he washed the body in the water, swore that after it sank a little it drew its swimming position and sped away to the south under the waves. Because I did not like these displays of peasant guessing, like, conspiracies or whatever, because he seemed to have seen something swim away from the body, which I really hope it's not whatever this thing is. Yeah, we decided not to take the situation seriously. We told them nothing. Next day, a very troublesome situation was created by the indisposition of some of the crew. They were evident from the nervous strain of our long voyage, and had bad dreams. Several seemed quite dazed and stupid, and after satisfying myself that they were not feigning their weakness, next day a very troublesome situation was created. Indisposition of some of the crew. They were evidently suffering from the nervous strain of our long voyage, and were having dreams. Several seemed quite dazed and stupid, and after satisfying myself that they were not feigning their weakness, excused them from their duties. The sea was rather rough. Okay, descend into the depths. Descend into the depths where the waves were less troublesome. Here we were comparatively calm, despite a puzzling southward current where we could not identify from our oceanographic charts. Most of the sick men were decidedly annoying, but since they did not appear to demoralize the rest of the crew, we did not resort to extreme measures. It was our plan to remain where we were and intercept the liner Desir, mentioned the information from agents in New York. I'm going to say that. Don't know. In the early evening, we rose to the surface and found the sea less heavy. Smoke of the battleship was on the north horizon, but our distance and ability to submerge made us safe. Worried how small was the talk of the boats when that was grim water at night, as night came on. It was a decisively childish state, and babbled on some illusions of dead bodies drowning the undersea portholes, bodies which looked at him intensely, which he recognized in spite of bloating as having died during some of our victorious German exploits. He said that the young man we had found and tossed overboard was their leader. This was very gruesome and abnormal. Yeah, let's leave him alone. Cause no point in cuffing and whipping him, because I feel like that would just make things worse. After some more time of him growing mad, we had to take measures so we confined Muller in the irons and had him whipped. The men were not pleased that his punishment, but discipline was necessary. Okay, well, they ended up whooping him anyway. Also, a delegation headed by Seaman Zimmer requested that the curious carved ivory head be cast into the sea. Do we want to keep that creepy little thing we found on the guy, or? Well, I know it's like a really fucked up thing, but I'm so tempted to keep it. But okay, I will agree for now. I agree with Cleanse, but Cleanse and I decided not to stand against this decision. Well, that was a fucking waste of time then. We ended up keeping it anyway. On June 20th, Seaman Herman Smith, who had been ill the day before, became violently insane. Regret that was included in our complement of officers. Since German lives are precious, but the constant ravings of the two crew members, the crew's terrible curse, were more subversive of discipline. So drastic steps were taken. The crew accepted the event in a something fashion, and it seemed to be Quiet Muller, who thereafter gave us no trouble. The union released him, and he did his duty silently. In the week that followed, we were all very nervous watching for Dacia. Tension was aggravated by the something of Muller and Zimmer, who undoubtedly committed suicide as a result of fears which had seemed to harass them. They were not observed in the act of jumping overboard. I was really glad to be rid of Muller, for his silence had unfavorably affected the crew. Everyone seemed inclined to be silent now. They were holding a secret fear. None were made a disturbance. Lieutenant Clens chaffed under the strain and was annoyed by the merest trifles, such as the dolphins which gathered around the U-29 in increasing numbers. The growing intensity of that southward current was not on the chart. It at length became apparent that we had missed the steer altogether. Such feathers were not uncommon, and we were pleased and disappointed. Our return to Wilhelmshaven was now in order. Okay, well, guess we're going back with the weird statue thing. At noon, June 28th, we turned northeastward, and despite some rather comical entanglements with the unusual masses of dolphins, we were soon underway. The explosion in the engine room at 2 p.m. was wholly a surprise. Defect in the machinery or carelessness in wherever that was being noticed. Yet without warning, the ship was racked from end to end with a colossal shock. I and Lieutenant Clens headed to the engine room. Yeah, let's investigate with him. We were shocked finding the fuel tank and most of the mechanisms shattered. Engine Raven Schneider were killed. Ooh, that's not good. Yeah, I'm guessing they were killed in the explosion. Our situation had suddenly become grave indeed, for though the chemical air generators were intact, and though the use of the device for raising and submerging the ship and opening the hatches, as long as compressed air and storage might hold out, we were powerless to propel or guide the submarine. Seek rescue and lifeboats would be to whatever. I guess wouldn't be much of help. Ourselves into the hands of the enemies, unreasonably embedment against our great German nation. Our wireless thing ever since the Victory affair to put us in touch with a fellow U-boat of the Imperial Navy. From the hour of the accident till July 2nd, we drifted constantly to the south, almost without plans, and encountering dolphins still encircled the U-29. Somewhat remarkable circumstance considering the distance we had covered. On the morning of July 2nd, we sighted a warship flying American colors. Men became very restless in their desire to surrender. Seaman named Tribou urged the un-German act. We can kill the seaman. Yeah, let's just don't act. The situation was getting out of control. Finally, Lieutenant Clens had to shoot a seaman named Tribou. Okay, well, he seems to be doing the complete opposite of me, and, like, no matter what I do, it ends up fucking happening anyway. I mean, the story's gonna go a certain way anyway, so I guess, so. There's this, act of special violence. This quieted the crew for the time, and we submerged unseen. Next afternoon, a dense flock of seabirds appeared from the south. The ocean began to heave ominously. Over the hatches, we awaited development until we realized that we must either submerge or be swamped in melting whatever. Okay, well, let's submerge then. Air pressure and electricity was diminishing, and we wished to avoid all unnecessary use of our slender mechanics, or mechanical resources. In this case, we had no choice. We did not descend far, and when after several hours the sea was calmer, we decided to return to the surface. Here new trouble developed, for the ship failed to respond to our directions in spite of all that the mechanics could do. The men grew more frightened at the undersea imprisonment. Some of them began to mutter again about Lieutenant Cleanse's image. Yeah, this is not boding well for us. Okay, let's try to calm down. So the automatic pistol. Okay, not calm them that way with a fucking gun. That's not what I was thinking. Cleanse and I usually slept at different times, and it was during my sleep about 5 a.m. July 4th that the general thing loose. 6 remaining pigs of seamen, suspecting that we were lost, had suddenly burst into a mad fury at our surrender to the Yankee battleship 2 days before. When in a delirium of cursing and destruction, they roared like the animals they were, and broke instruments and furniture indiscriminately, screamed about such nonsense as the cursed ivory image and the dark dead youth who looked at them and swam away. Tony Cleanse seemed paralyzed and thing one might expect of a soft womanish Rhinelander. Okay, looks like we're pulling out the pistol. I shot all 6 men. Well, ripped to most of our crew then, for it was necessary, and made sure that none remained alive. We expelled the bodies through the double hatches and were alone. I can't read that because it's freaking white against white. Okay, U-29. Clem seemed very nervous and breathed heavily. It was decided that we remain alive as long as possible using the large stacks of provisions and chemical substances, or substitute oxygen, none of which had suffered from the crazy antics of those swinehound seamen. Our compasses, depth gauges, and other delicate instruments were ruined, so that henceforth our only reckoning would be guesswork, based on our calendar. Our apparent drift is judged by any other objects we might spy through the portholes or from the conning. Fortunately, we had storage batteries still capable of long use, both for interior lighting and for the sea or searchlight. We cast a beam around the ship, but we saw only dolphins swimming parallel to our own drifting course. I was scientifically interested in those dolphins, for though the ordinary Delphius is a cetan mammal, unable to subsist with watch one of the swimmers closely for 2 hours. Do not see him after his submerged condition. With the passage of time, Cleanse and I decided that we were still drifting south, meaning sinking deeper and deeper. What noted the marine fauna and flora, and read much of the subject in the books, and I carried with me for spare moments not helping observing. However, the inferior scientific knowledge of my companion was not Parisian, but given the images and speculations which had no value, the fact of our coming death affected him curiously, and he would frequently pray in remorse over the men, women, and children we had sent to the bottom, forgetting that all the things which served the German state. After a time, he became noticeably unbalanced, gazing for hours at his ivory image, and fanciful stories of the lost and forgotten things under the sea. There are sunken ships there, many of them. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. They all appeared there. Me too. Sorry for them too. Now let us stop discussing them. They are long gone. No, they aren't. I'm done. In this now. Sometimes, a psychological experiment, I would lead him on in these wanderings, and listen to his endless poetic quotations and tales of sunken ships. I was very sorry for him, for I disliked to see a German suffer, but he was not to die with. For myself, I was proud, knowing how the fatherland would revere my memory and how my sons would be like men like me. On August 9th, we espied the ocean floor and sent a powerful beam from the searchlight over it. It was the vast, whatever that word is, mostly covered with seaweed, and strewn with shells of small mollusks. Here and there were slimy objects, or something contour, draped with weeds and encrusted with barnacles, which Cleanse declared must be ancient ships lying in there. He was puzzled by one thing: a peak of solid matter protruding above the ocean bed, nearly 4 feet at its apex. A few feet thick, with flat sides and smooth upper surfaces which met at a very obtuse angle. He called the peak a bit of a rock, but Cleanse thought he saw carvings on it. After a while, began to shudder and turned away from the scene, frightened. Yet could give no explanation, save that he was overcome with the vastness, darkness, remoteness of the mystery of the oceanic abyss. His mind was tired, but I am also a German. I was quick to notice two things. The U-29 was standing in the deep sea pressure splendidly, and that the peculiar dolphins were still about us, even at the existence of high organisms is considered impossible by naturalists. Yeah, I had previously overestimated our depth, I was sure, but nonetheless we must still be deep enough to make these phenomena remarkable. A seaward spiral gauged by the ocean floor was about as I had estimated from the organism past a high level. It was at 3:15 p.m. August 12th. Poor Cleanse went wholly mad. He had been in the conning tower using the searchlight when I saw him bound into the compartment where I sat reading. His face at once betrayed him. He is calling. He is calling. I hear him. We must go. As he spoke, he took his ivory image from the table, pocketed it, and seized my arm in an effort to drag me up the companionway to the deck. Yeah, let's attempt to soothe, although I don't think it's going to work. The moment I understood that he meant to open the hatch and plunge with me into the water outside. Vagary of that and homicidal many of which I was scarcely prepared. As I hung back and attempted to soothe him, he grew more wary. Come now, do not wait until later. It is better to repent and be forgiven than to defy and be condemned. Then I did the opposite of the soothing plan and told him he was mad, pitifully demented. But Sun Moon cried, "If I am something his mercy, may the gods pity the man who is the callousness can remain sane to the hideous end. Come and be mad where still can be with mercy." Salper seemed to relieve the pressure in his brain. Before he finished, he grew much milder. Let him depart alone if I would not accompany him. The course at once became clear. He was a German, but only a Rhinelander and a commoner. He was now a potentially dangerous madman. Declining with his suicide request, I could immediately free myself from one who was no longer a companion by a menace. Give me the ivory image before you go. This request brought him such uncanny laughter that I did not repeat it. If you wish to leave any keepsake or lock of hair for your family in Germany, in case I should be rescued. Again he gave me that strange laugh. So as he climbed the ladder, went to the lever, allowing proper time intervals operating the machinery, which led to his death. After I saw that he was no longer in the boat, I threw the searchlight around the water in an effort to see a glimpse of him. Since I wished to understand whether the water pressure would flatten him, as it theoretically should have, whether the body would be unaffected. Like those extraordinary dolphins, I did not, however, succeed in finding my companion. But the dolphins were majestically and scurrying about the conning tower. Evening, I regretted that I had not taken the ivory image, from poor Clinton's pocket as he left. The memory of it fascinated me. I could not forget the beautiful head with its leafy crown, though I am not much of an artist. I was also sorry that I had no one with whom to converse. Clinton, though not my mental equal, was much better than no one. I did not sleep all that night. I wondered exactly when the end would come. Surely I had learned enough of a rescue. We get to head on northward. Northward, the view was much the same as it had been all 4 days since we had sighted the bottom. But I persevered. That the drifting of the U-29 was less rapid. Go southward. I swung the beam around to the south. Noticed that the ocean floor ahead fell away in a marked declivity, and bore regular blocks of stone in certain places, disposed as if in accordance with definitive patterns. The boat did not at once descend to match the greater ocean depths, just a searchlight to cast a sharply downward beam. I was soon forced to adjust the searchlight and to cast a sharply downward beam, owing that the abruptness of the charge was disconnected. Repair. After it was necessitated, a delay of many minutes for repairs, but at length the light streamed on again, flooding the valley below me. I'm not given the emotion of any kind, but my amazement was very great when I saw what lay revealed in the electric glow. Yet, as one read into the best coltan of Persia, I could not have been amazed, for geology and tradition are so great transposition in oceanic and continental areas. So was an extended elaborate way of ruined edifices. All of magnificent, though unclassified architecture in various stages of preservation. Most appeared to be made of marble, gleaming widely in the rays of the searchlight, and the general plan was of a large city at the bottom of a valley, with numerous isolated temples and villas on the steep slopes above. Roofs of fallen columns were broken, where there still remained an air of morally ancient splendor which nothing could efface. Confronted at last with the Atlantis I had formerly deemed largely a myth, I was the most eager of explorers. At that of the valley, a river once had flowed, for as I examined the scene more closely, I behold the remains of stone and marble bridges and sea walls, and terraces and embankments once verdant and beautiful. In my enthusiasm, I became nearly idiotic and sentimental as poor Clint was very tardy in noticing that the southward current had ceased at last, allowing the U-29 to sail slowly down the sunken city, as an aeroplane sails upon a town of the upper earth slow, too, realizing that the school of unusual dolphins had vanished. In about 2 hours, the boat rested in a paved plaza, close to the rocky wall of the valley. On one side, I could view the city as it sloped from the plaza down to the old riverbank. On the other side, its darling proximity, I was confronted with a richly ornate and perfectly preserved facade of a great building, evidently a temple hollowed from solid rock. The original workmanship of this titanic thing I could only make conjectures. Facade of immense magnitude, apparently a continuous hollow recess, for its windows are many widely distributed. The center yawns a great open door by an impressive flight of steps, surrounded by exquisite carvings like the figures of Banchills in relief. There are great columns and fierce, both decorated with sculptures and beauty, obviously portraying ideal pastoral scenes and processions of priests and priestesses bearing strange ceremonial devices and adoration of that. The art of the most phenomenal perfection, largely Hellenic in idea, yet strangely individual, and imperial, terrible antiquity, as though it was a modus further than the immediate ancestor of Greek art. Nor can I doubt every detail of this massive product was fashioned from the virgin hillside rock of our planet. It was palpable part of the valley wall, though how the vast interior was ever excavated I cannot imagine. Perhaps a cavern or a series of caverns finished in the nucleus. Neither age nor submersion has created the pristine grandeur of this awful fane. For fane it must be. And today, after thousands of years, it rests untarnished and inviolate in the endless night and silence of the chasm. Cannot reckon the number of hours spent in gazing at the sunken sea with its buildings, arches, statues, and other things, and the colossal temple with its beauty and mystery. Though I knew that death was near, my curiosity was consuming. Through the searchlight about eager quest. A shelter of the light permitted me to learn many details, but refused to shoot anything within the gaping door of the temple. Okay, let's light more, cause I'm gonna die down here anyway, so might as well look around. After a time, there was still nothing. Okay, well, gotta turn it off then. Turned off the current consciousness of the need of conserving power. Rays were now dimmer than they had been during the weeks of drifting. As if sharpened by the coming deprivation of light, I decided to explore the secrets grew. I, a German, should be the first to tread these aeon-gone ways. Produce a suit. Ooh, we're gonna be walking on the ocean. I produced and examined a deep-sea diving suit of joined metal and experimented the portable light and air things. Though I should have trouble imagining a double hatched alone. I believed I could overcome all obstacles with my scientific skill and actually walk about the dead city in person. August 16th. Exit from the U-29. Effected an exit from the U-29. Ooh, that's actually kind of cool drawing. I laboriously made my way through the ruined and mud-choked streets of the ancient river. Found no skeletons or other human remains, but gleaned a wealth in archaeological lore from sculptures and coins. I cannot now speak save to utter my awe at a culture in the full noon of glory, when cave dwellers roamed Europe and flowed unwatched to the sea. Others guided by this manuscript, if it shall ever be found, must unfold the mysteries I can only hint at. As my electric batteries grew feeble, I resolved to explore the rock temple on the following day. I returned to the boat, August 17th. Plunged the portable light. As my impulse to search out the mystery of the temple waxed still more insistent, great disappointment befell me, as I found that the materials needed to replenish the portable light had perished in the mutiny of those pigs in July. It was unbounded, yet my German sense forbade me to venture unprepared into an utterly black interior which might prove to be of some indescribable marine monster, or labyrinth of passages from whose windings I could never get that word myself. Turn on the winning searchlight of the U-28 again. All I could do was turn on the winning searchlight of U-29. With its aid, I walked up to the temple steps to study the exterior carvings, shot the light into the door at an upward angle. I peered in to see if I could glimpse anything, but all in vain. Only the roof was visible, and even though I took a step inside after testing the floor with stuff, dared not go further. Moreover, for the first time in my life, I experienced an emotional dread. I began to realize how some poor cleanser's mood had arisen, for as the temple drew me more in, I feared its queerest abysses with a blind and mounting terror. I returned to the submarine. Turned on the lights and sat thinking in the dark. Electricity must now be saved for emergencies. Saturday the 18th. I spent in total darkness, tormented by thoughts and memories that threatened to overcome me, my German will. Cleanse had gone mad and perished before reaching the sinister remnant of past unholy or wholesomely remote, and advised me to go with him. Was it indeed fate preserving my reason only to draw me irresistibly to an end more horrible and unthinkable than any man had dreamed of? Clearly my nerves were sorely taxed. I must cast off these impressions of weak men. I could not sleep Saturday night. I don't like it that a gun showed up. Turned on lights regardless of the future, knowing that electricity should not last out the air and the provisions. Fired my thoughts of euthanasia. I examined the automatic pistol. Towards morning, I must have dropped to sleep with the lights on, for I woke in darkness yesterday afternoon to find the batteries dead. Well, rip to that then. Struck several matches in succession, and desperately regretted the impoverishment which had caused us long ago to the few candles we carried. After the fading of the last match, I dared to waste. I sat quietly without a light, and considered the inevitable. Mind ran over preceding events, and developed a hitherto dormant impression which could have caused a weaker and superstitious man to shudder. Here the radiant god in the sculptures on the rock temple is the same as the carven bit of ivory which sailor brought from the sea, which poor Cleanse carried back into the sea. I was a little dazed by this coincidence, but I had not become terrified. It was only the inferior thinker who hastens to explain the singular and the complex by the parody shortcut of the supernaturalism. The coincidence was strange, but I too sound a reasoner to connect circumstances, and admit of no logical connection, or to associate any uncanny fashion the disastrous events which had led from the whole affair to my present plight. I started to feel I need of more rest. Agree, we're taking a sedative. Took a sedative and secured some more sleep. Nervous condition was reflected in my dreams, for I seemed to hear cries of drowning persons, and to see dead faces pressing against the portholes of the boat. Among the dead, few the living, walking face of the youth and the ivory image. I must be careful in how I record my waking today, for I am unstrung, and much hallucination is necessarily mixed. But psychologically, my case is most interesting. I regret that I cannot be observed scientifically by a competent German authority. Upon opening my eyes, my first sensation was an overmastering desire to visit a rock temple. Desire every instant, yet which I automatically sought to resist through some emotion of fear which operated in the reverse direction. Next there came to me the impression of light amidst the darkness of dead batteries. I seemed to see a glow in the water throughout the porthole, which opened towards the temple. It aroused my curiosity, and knew of no deep-sea organism capable of emitting such luminosity. But before I could investigate, there came a thin impression of which, because of the rationally caused me to doubt the objective, of anything my senses might record. An oral delusion, sensation of rhythmic melodic sound of so wild yet beautiful chant of choral hymn coming from the outside through the absolutely soundproof hull of the U-29. It convinced my psychological and nervous operation. Use sodium. Then I poured a stiff dose of sodium bromide solution, which seemed to calm me to the extent of dispelling the illusion sound. But thing remained, and I had difficulty in pressing a childish impulse to go to the porthole and see the source. It was horribly realistic, and I could not distinguish it, but by its aid and the familiar objects around me, as well as the empty bromide glass of which I had no form of visual impression in its present location. Last circumstance made me, and I crossed the room and touched the glass. Indeed, in the place where I'd seemed to see it. Now I knew that the light was either real or part of a hallucination so fixed and consistent I could not hope to dispel it. I could not dispel it, so I abandoned all resistance. Later incidents are chaotic as I stared at the uncannily lighted door and windows, became subject to the most expressive visions so extravagant that I cannot even relate to them. Fancy that I discerned objects in the temple of stationary and moving, and seemed to hear again the unreal chant that had flowed to me when I first awaked, and rose thoughts and fears which centered in the youth from the sea and the ivory image whose carving and duplicated friends and columns of the temple before me. I thought of poor Cleanse and wondered where his body rested that had carried back into the sea. He had warned me of something, and I had not heeded, but he was a soft-headed person, and who, when mad at troubles of Perusian, could bear with ease. The rest is very simple. My impulse to visit into the temple had now become an inexplicable and imperious thing which ultimately cannot be denied. My own German will no longer control my acts. Violation of it is henceforth put in minor matters. Such madness it was which drove Cleanse to his death, bareheaded and unprotected in the ocean. Perusian and a man of sense will use to the last little will I have. When first I saw that I must go, prepared diving suit, helmet, and air regenerator for instant donning, immediately commenced to write this hurried note, the hope that it may someday reach the world. Still the manuscript in a bottle. I shall see the manuscript in a bottle and trust it to see as I leave U-29 forever. I have no fear that, not even from the prophecies of the madman Cleanse. What I have seen cannot be true, and I know the madness of my own will at most only be suffocation, which, when my air is gone, light in the temple is a sheer delusion, shall die calmly, like a German, the black and forgotten debts, and demoniac laughter which I hear as I write this from my own weakening brain, so I'll carefully don my driving suit. Ooh, that's a cool drawing, or picture. Actually looks really fucking cool. Now we'll walk boldly into the steps into the primal shrine, that silent secret of ephemeral wars and uncounted whatever. Okay, I don't know if that's it or not, because I can't click on anything else, but yeah, that was really cool. I like being able to make choices, although it didn't really fucking matter. But I guess you can only make so many choices to a story that already exists, and it's already set in stone, but definitely like these art pieces for it. It looks really fucking cool. But yeah, other than that, it was kinda cool. If you guys wanna read through this yourself, and maybe see what happens if you end up picking the other options, link will be down in the description below, and yeah, we'll be moving on to the next game.